Hello everyone and welcome to One Teacher, One Scientist. I am Vaishali Gupta and I'm the founder of One Teacher, One Scientist. I firmly believe that each one of us is a teacher and we impact a child's life. If we make learning a joyous and enjoyable moment, the child becomes a lifelong learner. So today, in our Facebook Live, we see for ourselves how making sandwiches can be such an exciting journey for a child, such an exciting experience for a child, and there are so many concepts that are hidden in making sandwiches. So, first to begin with is the ingredients. So, when you look at the ingredients, like the bread, the vegetables, the butter, the cheese, salt, pepper, you can actually help children understand what are the sources, the uses of plants, the uses of animals. Where do we get bread from? Bread is from wheat. And where is wheat? What gives us wheat? Plants. Then the different vegetables. Plants give us these vegetables. Then the cheese. Cheese is a milk product. We get this from animals. Butter. Butter is a milk product. We get these from animals. So when you're doing this, children learn first the where we get these ingredients from. So sources of food gets done. Then you can explain to them what are the uses of plants. Then the different parts of a plant that we eat as vegetables. Like the potato. Potato is an underground stem. Then the cucumber and the tomato, they are actually fruits which we eat as vegetables. Then we have these are leaves that we eat. So all these are different parts of a plant that we eat as vegetables. The basic concept why tomato is considered a vegetable and not a fruit. Why do we put it as a vegetable? That also you can explain over here. That it is actually the fruit part of the plant that is eaten as a vegetable. The same with cucumbers. Then when you are talking of pepper, you can say, okay, these are spices. And the spices add flavor to a food. And even this we get from plants. So basic concept, what are the uses of plants? The different foods that we get from plants and from animals. Then cheese and butter are milk products. Children are doing this, but they just keep learning them while they are doing their chapters. So here you can actually make them analyze and evaluate where we are getting each of them from. And then come the concept of raw and cooked. So you can also explain how the potato is boiled, so it is cooked. We eat it when it is cooked. Whereas we can eat a cucumber raw, we can eat tomatoes raw, we can eat lettuce raw. So then come the different components. Bread is rich in carbohydrates. So it is an energy giving food. Then the cheese is rich in protein. So this is a bodybuilding food. Then these vegetables are protective food. So they are rich in vitamins and minerals. So see how these components get done. And when they make a sandwich, you can actually ask them to analyze whether it is a balanced sandwich or not. Suppose they put just butter and make a sandwich. Then it is only energy giving. But when we add cheese, we add bodybuilding to it. Then when we make it a energy giving plus bodybuilding food. Then when we add vegetables like cucumbers, like tomatoes, like potatoes, you can also explain that the vegetables that we eat are actually these are the parts of a plant in which the extra food gets stored. See now how this becomes a balanced diet. So all the components of food get done here. Then you can ask children to actually learn shapes. This is a very interesting part. Like you can explain to them the different shapes. Now here, this is a square. Now, if we cut this, then we get two rectangles. So we are doing shapes here. How these rectangles are made. Then you can ask the child to cut this further, or maybe you can cut it if you don't want them, depending on what age you are dealing with. If you don't want them to use the knife, you can cut it. So here, the same sandwich gets divided into 4 parts. So see how 4 squares, then they join together. You can make rectangles out of it. So now 2 rectangles. When you join all of them together, you make a square again. So the shapes get done. Now you can also teach them fractions. See, now we've cut them into 4 parts. So each of these is a quarter, 1/4, 1 out of 4. So fractions are getting taught here. You can teach them more shapes by using, see how a katori can be used to cut it into. See, now fine motor skills also get done here, and a circle gets made. So one more shape gets done. Here it is. So a circle gets done. Then we can also teach them the concept how 2 triangles. See, when we cut it like this, then there are 2 triangles. So how 2 triangles can join together to form a square. How 2 triangles, and then they can play around with these to create fractions. The other thing that you can teach children is that they can actually make designs on these and make a story out of it. So storytelling also gets integrated. The other thing you can teach while they are using, when they are peeling the cucumber, they will be using a peeler. And when they are using a peeler, you can explain to them how this is a simple machine. Simple machines make work easier. And this can be used to teach them how peeler is a simple machine. Now they start decoding each of them. This is a wedge. How a knife is again a simple machine. These are inclined planes. So these concepts, when they are doing things, they are actually learning a lot. Older children can actually go beyond this and can understand how bread is made. So the role of yeast in making bread. You can also teach them what is rotting and how microorganisms grow. Basically, children can leave a sandwich in a box and leave it overnight, maybe for 2 days, and then ask them to observe the sandwich, what happened to it. They will see how microbes grow on it. They will see bread mold growing on that bread, on that sandwich. So you can actually carry it forward depending on the class that the child is in, depending on what level the child is. You can, for a younger child, you can actually ask them to compare the sandwiches now. So they will be comparing. If we look at it here, now this sandwich and this sandwich, you can ask children to compare. So the sorting, grading, comparison skills also get done. And at home, if you tell children to actually help around at home while they are at home during this lockdown, there are so many skills that a child learns. One of the skills is social skill, interpersonal skills. When children are doing things at home, they are helping their parents, they are caring and sharing, they are collaborating. And while doing these simple things at home, they can learn a lot. So rotting is another thing that you can teach them. You can perhaps ask them to leave all these vegetable peels into a plastic bag and just tell them, okay, let's see it after a few days. What happens to it? You will see that mold would be formed. There will be microbes that would have grown on it. And all these are concepts that we are teaching children, and They just learn, they don't integrate it because they've not understood, they've not done it themselves. So again, coming back to math skills, so fractions can get done, shapes can get done, and a very important concept, how triangles are forming squares, how squares are forming rectangles. So you know how shapes are affecting each other, how you can create, and then you can keep cutting this into smaller pieces and see how diff, like four triangles, and then they can play tanagrams with this. You can actually help a child play tanagrams with sandwiches. They start creating different objects using these sandwiches. Different shapes can be created using these sandwiches. So these are some of the skills. And then again, play around with vegetables. They can actually learn what is a two-dimensional and a three-dimensional figure. So like tell them to trace a circle, and then here the tomato is a three-dimensional figure. So what is the difference between a two-dimensional and a three-dimensional figure? That also gets done. Then small things like rolling. Children don't understand what is rolling, how shape affects rolling. So this can be taught, like how the sandwich is sliding, right? Whereas a tomato is rolling. So how a shape affects motion. That starts getting, kind of the concept starts getting laid at this point. So children start learning how shapes are affecting motion, and these are some of the basic things that you can teach children. And one of the skills that I feel that children really need is interpersonal skills. Today children are living in small family units. Today children are not socializing so much because of lockdown, but even in these family units they learn to collaborate, they learn to work together, they learn to live in harmony. So you can allow children to do these things to help you out at home while you're stuck in lockdown. So it's not just about making these sandwiches, it's about, you can actually ask a child, okay, now how can I increase the protein in this? Let the child now critically evaluate the sandwich. So some children may come up with the thing, okay, we can add an egg. Maybe a boiled egg can be added to it. Maybe chicken can be added to it. So it depends on what kind of a food habit the family has. And we can keep coming up with ideas. Now that is analyzing and evaluating. The child will be coming up with creative answers. So what is happening? You are making a child think beyond the textbook. You are making the child think in a real life situation. And that is what these experiences can actually make a child a lifelong learner. And I personally feel that our kitchens, our bathrooms can be perfect labs, our gardens can be perfect labs. But these days, because we are stuck at home, we can't really go out. But if you do have a garden, please allow children to go out and experience science around them. So, a simple activity like this can actually be a huge learning storehouse. So, it depends on us how much we stimulate a child. So, simple sandwiches can actually teach them so many concepts. I think we do the entire unit on plant life. We can do an entire unit on foods when we are doing this. And then maybe you can ask children to share these sandwiches with everyone at home. So maybe give them the thing, okay, today's breakfast you are going to make with sandwiches. And then let them get feedback from everyone at home. So they learn to take failure. They also learn that it is not always that everything they do is very well appreciated. So even how to take feedback, a negative feedback is very important for a child. And you will see when they learn like this, they will take that negative feedback also very well, because it's all a fun activity. Perhaps the parent can say, okay, I think you needed to put a little more salt in it. There it goes. The child takes that negative feedback in a very in a stride, and then tries to improve upon it. And so, this is what you can make children do at home while you are stuck in quarantine. A simple sandwich making exercise can help you so many things. So, the first concept we did was the different components of food. Second was uses of plants as food, what we get from plants. Then we get food from plants as well as animals. Then you can do the different parts of the plant that we eat. This is an underground stem. This is a fruit which is actually eaten as a vegetable. Here children, you can also explain to children why we call them vegetables and not fruits. So that concept can also get laid. Then we eat leaves as food. So different parts of a plant that we eat. Then the other concept is that plants also give us spices. So the pepper is there. One more extension of this you can do is, when you have salt, you can explain to the child how we get salt. Perhaps what you can do is, you can add a little bit of water in this and mix it up. Mix up salt with water and then leave it on the windowsill. Maybe leave it for 1 day or 2 days. When the water, you will see that the child will observe how the salt got dissolved in water, and when you left it outside, the water evaporated and you will get salt back. So the concept of how we get salt also gets done. You can explain to them, this is how we get salt from seawater. So, that is salty water and how we get salt from it. So these are basic things that you can do. Adding the maths elements, you can explain to them what are three-dimensional figures. When they are actually using them, when they are actually feeling them, they are understanding it. And how from a three-dimensional figure, you got a two-dimensional figure. When you are cutting it slim, thinner and thinner and thinner, you get two-dimensional figures. Perhaps you can ask them to trace the cucumber. So a two-dimensional and a three-dimensional figure also gets done. Then you do shapes. Perhaps you can also get some, if you have cookie cutters lying at home, there can be more shapes that the child can do. And when they are doing that, they understand what is molding. In senior classes, when they learn how molds are used, because they have used here, they've used to cut down shapes, they will learn molds. When they grow up and they are actually learning about molds, they will make a connection. Yes, that is what is a mold. So these are the things, and how fractions can be taught. 1 out of 4. Then you can ask them to play around. Okay, what makes it into half? So the child will say, okay, 2 out of 4 is half. So play around with them and see how basic concepts get done. How 2 triangles were making a square. What is the difference between a rectangle and a square? So see how this is a rectangle. So the child can be asked to compare the shapes. So that is a rectangle and this is a square. So the child starts giving you the basic concept gets done, that okay, the opposite sides in a rectangle are equal, not all 4 sides are equal, whereas in a square all 4 sides are equal. So it depends how you use the sandwich making exercise for which level. So it depends on the child's level, and you can judge what are the various things that you can teach. For senior classes, I think this can be a very good activity for making a child understand the role of microbes. You can ask them to get yeast. I think the stores are going to be open now, and when they get dry yeast, you can ask them to actually make bread at home. And when they make bread at home, they see the role of yeast in bread making, and how carbon dioxide is given out, and how gases are given out, and that helps in bread making. You can also make let children, if bread making is something that they can't do at this point, then they can actually leave these sandwiches in a box and see after a few days, and you will see bread mold on it. They can study the bread mold and see spores as well. So it depends on how we want to use this sandwich making exercise. I hope you enjoy this sandwich making at home with your children. And thank you so much for joining us live on One Teacher, One Scientist.